What's going on, social workers? Hello, social workers, mental health professionals, and change agents. Welcome to another episode of the Social Work Friends Podcast. I'm your host, Bash Moreno. Thank you for tuning in, tapping in wherever you're listening or watching this podcast episode. You can follow, make sure you hit the red subscribe button on YouTube, type in the Social Work Friends Podcast on YouTube. Follow me on Instagram at the Social Work Rants Podcast. That's all one word. You can follow the podcast on Twitter at Social Work Rants. You can also hit the like button on Facebook, aka Meta. Just type in the Social Work Rants Podcast and hit the like button. Tune in, tap in. As of this recording, we're in the middle of Social Work Month. The way we work in the field every day all year round is social work month, but in particular March is our month, our month to shine and get the recognition, get all the coffee gift cards and all the other little nonsense that we get. We appreciate you. We get like things that we get from like the dollar store, be all nice and pretty, but
Yeah.
um, my guess is it's time. You MSW doing amazing work in the field. My
Maria. Maria
Maria
Wright.
Maria Wright, how you doing?
I'm well, thank you. Thank you for having me. I do appreciate it. Yes, my name is Maria Wright, and I'm a social worker. I have my bachelor's in social work. I went to San Diego State University and got my BSW. I went to Cal State East Bay, which is California State University, and received my MSW. I'm working towards my LCSW. I've finished my hours for clinical, and yeah, I'm an all around social worker. That's my knowledge base. I don't know much else outside of social work.
Awesome.
Happy to be here on the Rants podcast.
No, no, of course we've been trying to make this work for a little bit, and it's all about patience and in God's timing. So I'm glad we're able to
Through social
connect and
work.
meet and virtually, and besides the IG posts, stuff like that. So, uh, how do you get started in the field? You got the bachelor's and your master's, like just like you said, full social work. How did that even come about?
Yeah, I mean, I've always wanted to be a social worker. I'm one of those like weird people that I have known since like the sixth grade that this is what I wanted. I wanted to be a social worker. So it was not anything that I had to really think about or figure out. I am a transfer student proudly. So when I went to San Diego City College, I focused on courses that I needed for my bachelor in social work. And I took my, my 101s and my social work ethic classes at the city college, transferred in, and have been on that road ever since. My internships, my summer jobs, the things that I did were always around working and supporting communities and youth and families, system involved families, and really focusing on different aspects of how I, as a social worker, can support, influence, and impact an individual and a community.
Oh, that's amazing that you've been always wanting to make such an impact in your community. Now, you're originally from Cali?
Yes, born and raised in California. I'm from a very small city, but yet it's on the map, and you always see it on the weather when you're looking in California. I'm from Eureka, which is in
Okay.
Humboldt County. Most people know Humboldt County for its redwood trees, but maybe there's some other things too. But growing up in Humboldt County, I knew that it was a small town, small community that I just didn't feel fit for, and I wanted to branch out. So I left 3 days after high school graduation at the age of 17, ready to move on with my life and to grow my profession as a social worker.
Well, that's great. What exactly is going on on the ground in Cali, or where you at, where you work at, that we're not hearing on the news. We're not going to hear CNN or
Mm.
Fox or any major network talking about what exactly is the issues. I know, the governor had a, a runoff election that he won by a large margin. It was kind of like, you're shutting down the states, shutting down, shutting down Los Angeles and all this other stuff. And then this special election happened and he won. So that's like the major thing that I know of what was going on. But what are you seeing? What are the issues that people are facing over there?
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of what the larger world or the other states see of California is us being such a liberal state, or us having a governor that shut us down or what have it. Social workers did support, as social workers and labor did support Gavin Newsom being reelected. He is for the people. And so personally, that's where I came from. But understanding that everyone has a right to disagree, right? That's the social worker aspect of it, right? Everyone has the right to disagree and have different perspectives and reasons for why they want what they want and need what they need. But I know for the people that I serve as a social worker, there's a need for community and public service and resources being provided to them. There is such a lack thereof, right? There's a lack of available services, funding for services, and those community services are what we desperately need. And we need the funding that's going to this, you know, attempt to, throw our governor. We needed those resources to go actually to our communities and support our communities. And a lot of money was wastely spent on that. And so that's
Mhm.
unfortunate that people went that direction and it, didn't pan out. But I really see a need for more social workers to become clinicians and provide services to our families that are on government aid, and more funding to families who are experiencing deep poverty, especially through this pandemic, and more opportunities for our youth that are in school sites where they're not getting their needs met. A lot of our students are, at least in foster youth, are behind grades, aren't getting the support that they need in school. And so a lot of focus, I think, needs to be in school. And here, our statewide superintendent is an MSW, Tony Thurman, and I really think focus towards school and education for foster youth and system involved youth is really important. Oftentimes, they spend so much time out of a school placement due to being system involved that it just holds them back even further than when they started being system involved.
Mhm.
So a lot of support and a lot of services are needed here for this next generation to even have a fighting chance at thriving and surviving.
Yeah, absolutely. I know me working currently in the school system as a school social worker, the pandemic has really affected the kids on so many levels. Just basic reading, writing skills. They're they come across as like 2 grades behind, and it's like, we got fourth graders still struggling, reading. Just the other day, I was just doing like a role play with a child, and like she was, the child was like teaching me like spelling words. We were doing pretend spelling tests and was telling me the words, and then like I'm spelling them correctly or try to pretend like spelling incorrectly, but in my head, I was like, let me write them correctly just in case he or she might not know how to spell it. And it's like, got him, no, I got marked wrong. And it's like, I know I got them right because I'm trying to help you to spell the words. And it's like, just little things like that, like kind of like see like grade levels and reading levels, and the kindergartners, I've been struggling all year with the kindergartners. Many of them, never had like the preschool experience, or like daycare is being closed, and school has become their first real interaction with. And school is so structured, so like they're not used to the structure or of the school structure, and whatever's going on at home, there's no structure there. So it's like coming to school and they're just wilding out, and so it's just been school year's crazy.
School
There's
is
no lack of a better. There's no lack of a better. I try not to use crazy, but I can't. There's no other word really
yeah,
to really explain it. Like I know it was going to be challenging working inside a school building compared to like last year that I wasn't working directly in a school building, but this has been like more than I think we all thought it might be, and I hope state, local level, even the federal level really get it together. Like this summer is a critical summer of getting things in place, and then come the fall, maybe they'll learn their lessons from this past school year, and next year be better for these kids. But I'm even starting to advocate. Maybe we need to do like 1 year of like a whole like year long school just to try to catch up. I know teachers are going to are going to fight that. Teachers usually going to fight that, but I don't blame them for fighting that. But like these kids is just so behind, and it's just no, the kindergartners, first, second graders not knowing basic like letter sounds or alphabets and numbers. It's through the gamut, and the teachers are trying. I see it every day. Then they trying, and but it's just behaviors and is just a lot going on.
a lot. Yeah, I would agree. In California, we do have an initiative for preschool Head Start to be free, and so that's free for all children. And so it's a hope and expectation that children will be given that opportunity to have formal instruction before kindergarten. But I would agree that our youth, our babies, our children are entering K through 12 and are already behind. They haven't even, when they enter, they're not at grade level. And so we continue to push them through because, of course, we don't want to hold them back. They need to move forward with their class, but we continue to push them forward without ever pausing to give them what they actually need. And a lot of our youth, what they need is one on one. What they need is a safe place to release the trauma that they had in the morning before they got to school and the angst of what they're going to experience when they go home after school, right? They're holding on to this and they're bottling it up. And now they're expressing it in a moment where there's not as much backlash as when they're at home going through that traumatic experience. And trauma looks different, right? It's not always a trauma of being abused or neglected, but it could still be the uncertainty or the lack of support, lack of food, lack of nutrients, lack of stability, security, and various things at home. And it's really, really unfortunate that that the school system doesn't have the resources. I think that what I realized over the pandemic is that teachers should be paid more. We need school social workers assigned to a school site, not to 5 or 6 different locations that they have to travel through throughout the week. We need school psychologists and therapists on site to be able to navigate and support their social, emotional, mental health needs. And like school staff needs to be supported and funded at a different level, right? Resources need to be provided to the classroom. Teachers shouldn't have to, with the small amount that they make, also use that to get their school supplies and the things that they need to be able to instruct
Mhm.
and teach in. And it's really unfortunate that funding didn't get pushed out even more for these school sites, even after realizing how valuable our school system is to the entire United States. I mean, I know for myself as a parent that I am very happy that my child is back in school and that I don't have to try and figure it out on my own because I would not have succeeded. My son would not have succeeded. Like I said, I have the degree I have, but my knowledge base is very narrow and it's around social work. And if you
Mhm.
want me to think about something outside of that, I'm going to struggle myself.
Yeah, absolutely. I I was myself with 2 kids. I was happy. I literally fought my daughter almost every day last year. Like, turn on your damn camera, turn on your camera, to a
Yep.
point like I've threatened, like I'm gonna smack you on
A lot of
Zoom upside your head. You know,
parents say
turn your camera on. I don't care what your teacher says. Like, get it together.
that.
And it was like a everyday struggle. So you know, so I've always had like this, anxiety, with COVID, I know everybody's like F COVID, blah blah blah, but I always had like I guess the respect for the virus and having losing a parent due to COVID and losing, so many clients because of COVID in 2020. So like I'm not messing around. Like I wear my mask. I'm a homebody for the most part anyway, even though I miss my sporting events, I miss concerts and things of that nature. But if I'm gonna be home, I'm gonna be home. You watch some TV, play PlayStation, or like I'm gonna be chilling. So, but when these kids went back to school, I was excited that the kids went back. Like I can't do another year. Like they bringing back math. Just math alone is like my son and bringing. He's in seventh grade. Like, bro, I can't help you. It's not addition, subtraction, or that. Like, oh, you doing line graphs now? I remember doing it. I can't help you how to do a line graph. Go on YouTube, figure it out. I can't I can't do it.
At all.
My
I know.
my daughter's doing fractions and it's like I know what a denominator is, but I can't like multiply and divide fractions. I can't do that anymore. That's like a long time ago.
That's the same over here. Yeah, yeah, math was never my subject or expertise, and I definitely am not useful at all in that area. So when COVID was still rampant and there was the notice that school was going to be open in the fall, it was no question. I was like, COVID or not. I'm like, COVID or not, you're going back to school because of course, I don't want to get COVID. I'm worried about it, but I needed him to be in a structured situation where he's getting the support because throughout COVID, I was still working. And so even though there were times when I was at home with him, trying to help him through his schoolwork, I had my own meetings. I had my own core reports to write. I had my own work I had to get done and home visits to do because my work never slowed down. And when I was still in the office and in the field on a daily basis. So it was really hard to navigate the both, and homeschooling is not something I ever aspired to do. So I'm very happy that he's back in school and what's happening with the opening.
What exactly you do on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, so I'm a child welfare worker. I litigate the welfare institution code 300 in regards to child abuse and neglect and sexual exploitation of children. And so I'm a dependency investigator. So I investigate allegations and support families through the court process.
And I started in the field in child welfare. It's a lot of work. It takes a lot of patience and stressful.
Yes.
I hate year three. It's like I can't do it. I'm about to like smack anybody.
Yeah, yeah, yes.
but but how do you balance or juggle like, doing the tough work that you doing it during the pandemic plus being a parent.
Mhm. Um, I I try to separate the two. I will not say that I've mastered it. I've been a child welfare worker for almost 6 years. I've also had two different internships in different counties across the state. So I've been, immersed in child welfare for about 10 years now. And I also have a 10-year-old son. So I started working in this field when my son was an infant. And so it's kind of just been a part of growth for both of us and experiencing that transition. When I actually learn, I'm just going to be honest, I learn a lot from my clients. I learn a lot from the children. I learn a lot from the parents around parenting skills, and child behavior, and also, the generation of, how parents respond and how children take to that. So I've learned a lot and I've grown a lot as a parent because of the work I do. So I'm thankful to my clients and the people that I've been fortunate to be a small part of their life and their experience with them. But when I am working with a family and I'm able to walk away and be with my family, I don't take that for granted. I see how privileged I am to be able to end a conversation with a parent who doesn't have their child and know that I'm able to go home to my child. And I value that so much. And I just dote on my children and love them, and work through the challenges that I have as a parent, and am mindful of what that means and the opportunities that I have.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I was just on a podcast recently and talking about my experience in child welfare and just how like you mentioned like being grateful having your family and trying to help reunify parents if deemed reunify families if deemed appropriate or you know working in New York at the time we did have a law that after like 14 out of 18 months the kids are in foster care we got to put up for adoption or set up the adoption process with that nature and just talking about how kind of like using my work and motivate what to do and not to do for myself, parenting, my kids and just, not having, it isn't what not to do or know about the laws to make sure like, my kids will make me go 0 to 100 real quick. And it's like the pause, like, relax before you do something. I don't need to be catching the case and messing up my whole career. So definitely foster care kind of like and I had like babies on my case so it's like the very beginnings of like parenting, like kind of like soothe the baby and like pat them and like make and just like teach them like fine motor skills and seeing how they grow and develop and so a whole lot to child welfare.
Yeah, there is a whole lot that goes into it, and that what you mentioned about us being on the inside as parents, knowing what constitutes for abuse, what constitutes for neglect, what to be mindful of, knowing that we're getting in this rage as a parent where we're so upset and we want to react to our child, but we're like, oh, pause. I know that if I move forward, then this can be constitute for abuse, or things that our children might say or how they may react. For me, I have a heightened sense because I identify as a Black woman, my children are Black, and so my husband's Black, so I already know what we have up against the system, even though I work in the system. And so one of the things that I try or that I'm working towards as a social worker and child welfare worker is to create a training and a community support for families, because I don't think it's fair that I hold this much knowledge around the system as a parent, so I'm able to navigate certain situations with my
Mhm.
family, and other families don't know that, and they're in these communities where they're targeted, right? They're more than likely to come involved with the system. They're more than likely to get a referral from to CPS and have an investigation simply because of their zip code, simply because of their ethnicity, simply because they are experiencing poverty and the system is up against them. And so I hope that one day I'm able to provide a training and supportive services to families in the community to be preventative, as well as once they become system involved, let them know what the system looks like and what the trajectory of a case looks like, what the options are, and what to look out for. Because it's so upsetting to me that families don't know, and they come into the system and they respond based on their fear and the unknown.
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
they're so fearful, there's so much unknown, and that shows differently for each person. I can show in aggression, it can show in being shut down, it can show in
Yes.
distant, it can show in trying to overachieve. But I think that families need to be on the same level playing field, as if I were to be investigated by CPS, the playing field that I would have. I want families and the communities, Black, Hispanic, Mexican, American Indian, the families that are disproportionately impacted by child welfare, they should have the same level playing field that I would have would an investigation be placed upon me.
Absolutely. It's so important, especially with so many people gotten divorced. There's like during the pandemic, so many domestic violence cases have gone up. Some, emotional, physical abuse has happened during the pandemic, and now that we are, you know, I guess towards the end. I mean, I'd like to say the end, but as we another phase or like the ending
Around the
phase,
corner.
turning turning the corner a tad bit, depending where you live at, and see what that looks like, for kids, for families, and you know, people need support. I see that, every day, just these families, and see these kids. I'm like, what exactly is going on at home that you guys are kids coming to school and just wanting to do whatever they want to do, and like, where's the structure in the home? What does home look like? What, in Delaware, like, there's like one like shelter for families, and that I know of the state, and desperately need more than one shelter, like, because families are losing their homes because of the pandemic, because people lost their jobs, and there's like, there's not, like you mentioned at the very beginning, there's not enough services for families. And I definitely see it, with my move from New York to Delaware, and it's like, I'm gonna how I'm gonna help these families. Like, I'm supposed to like provide services, and like, and I'm trying to navigate the state and trying to find services, like, myself, to help the families, and it's not there. Like what can I do? And so, like, I'm like struggling with the work, and then like the families are struggling. It's like, you want to help, but it's a huge catch 22.
Yeah. Yeah, I know it is hard. And, I met some social work students not too long ago, and I was talking about, prevention and supporting families and providing these services. And there was an instant expression of hopelessness. And I'm just like, oh no, like you're a student. How are you already hopeless? You haven't even gone to the field yet. How are you already jaded and hopeless and not, don't see this as an opportunity? Because that's our job as social workers, is to like make something out of nothing and figure it out and advocate for it and make it happen. So there's definitely this level of hopelessness. I think a cloud of it over the United States, I'm guessing. I don't know, but if it's from California to Delaware, but it's just like, there's such a lack thereof. And how, as the social work profession, are we going to take charge in making sure that these services come back, or these services are expanded or funded in a way that we can support families? I would agree, here in California, and something that people probably don't know about because they just see us as maybe a wealthy state that's very liberal, our homeless population is massive. And, people love the Bay Area. They love, San Francisco, Oakland. People love Los Angeles and San Diego. But the homeless encampments are huge. I mean, they're their own communities. They are
Mm.
their own neighborhoods. There are families that are living there. There's kids' tricycles. People are pulling their cars up. These are working families that don't have the housing stability that they once had due to hardship, most of that from the pandemic. And it's really unfortunate. And my hope is that social workers find a way to make it happen, and calling on the NASW to, support us, to advocate for, equal pay for social workers, title protection, so we are able to move into these positions, for social workers to see the power that we do have and the influence that we can have for our communities. And, our communities need us. They really do. It's really a hard, trying time for a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, I could kind of see where, the social work students are like losing hope. At least the ones you're talking about. I mean, you have, we had all this hope when, Biden ran about, student loan forgiveness, and that hasn't happened yet. We had like you mentioned the NASW, um, at least the social media aspect of the NASW, and this is the national chapter I'm talking about. Make just fumbling, just the whole pandemic, just dropping the ball, making mistakes, fighting with licensed clinical social workers on Instagram, and blocking. people on Instagram and just recently attacking a fellow licensed clinical social worker on Twitter. So their whole social media needs to be uh, talked about and fixed like ASAP, and not having NASW. They say they want to help with student loan forgiveness, but actions speak louder than words, and they need to hold a whole press conference. We need like every major network. They need to. I need to see it on my TV screen so I could believe.
Definitely.
I could believe it. See it like
Yep, I
like
agree. I don't know
I
what to
mean,
say.
myself, I've done more advocating by like being outside Wilmington, Delaware train station that's named after Biden and done videos and posted on Instagram. And
And
I've been outside the uh the White House when I went to DC and made a video, it's a second video, like telling Biden like you need to end student loan debt more than like NASW did. So I did a whole post about that with a funny face on Instagram like a couple months back and got like great reaction from people. So it's like they need to get it together, and students see that, they watching the news and seeing that, and they see pandemic how it's affected people, and it's like kind of like already like behind the eight ball basically, and it's like all this, social workers still talking about we in it for the outcome, not the income. No, that's still going around, and it's like we need to make money too. You talking about California? It's like talking about Bay Area alone is like a whole gentrification going on, just Bay Area alone, and LA is going through stuff like you got a multi-million-dollar arena that just had the Super Bowl and is like is still in the hood.
yeah, it's
I never been out there. Like I was supposed to go during the pandemic to LA, but I think that's more likely end of 2022 into 2023 going to Cali. But from what I heard, like I even saw a post like just because the Super Bowls in, in LA, it's in Inglewood, and Inglewood is still hood, so be careful. But is just myself being a sports fan, Golden State got a beautiful brand new arena, but it's in San Francisco and it's not in Oakland, and kind of like whole gentrification going on in the Bay Area. So it's throughout California, throughout America, really, this whole gentrification that's been going on like for years, and it's like I've heard comedians talk about if they put a bicycle lane in your neighborhood, that's like the first sign of gentrification.
oh my gosh, that is so funny. Yeah, there's bicycle lanes all over the place here. That is hilarious. But I'm right there with you on the student loan forgiveness. I don't understand what's taking so long. I honestly feel like it's so simple. It's like a signature or like a click of a button. It's money in the air that really means nothing to anybody else but the people that owe the debt. And the government can go without it. If they've gone this long without people making payments, they can go the rest of whenever, because big banks get bailed out, big
Mhm.
corporations get bailed out, big farm gets bailed out. Why can't social workers who are serving the community, the people that have been impacted by this pandemic, why can't we? I don't want to use the word bailed out because we're not going to get bailed out. Why can't we get forgiveness for the loans that we had to take out to get this education? I don't understand why NASW isn't doing it and why Biden hasn't signed it off. And, along with student loan forgiveness, why hasn't the NASW truly fought for title protection? We as social workers do not have title protection. Anybody can call themselves a social worker. And it's funny because I saw on Instagram somebody post there's this song by this woman from Atlanta, Georgia, where she says like these different cities around Atlanta are not Atlanta. And then I saw someone post something where these different professions are not actually social work, maybe a bunch of them. And I was like, that is so true, because people will say, oh, I was a social worker. It's like, okay, well, being a, welfare worker, or a, food stamps worker, or a community service worker, that does not mean that you're a social worker. As like, to become a social worker, it requires a lot in our education, in our internship, in our practicum hours. And so it's unfortunate that we don't have title protection. And I think once we have title protection, we'll be a lot stronger as a profession and as a organization, and be able to, team together. Right now, we don't have that. And so it kind of, falls short.
Mm. No, absolutely. I mean, when I started in the field, in child welfare, like I had a BA degree, like it was communications major, like, and doing child welfare work. But I saw supervisors getting promoted, and they had MSWs. That's how, like, all right, if I need to make some more money, I need to get an MSW. So that's how I got my degree. I did my 2 internships and graduated with my MSW. By the way, for them, you owe me money because I had to find one of my own internships. So it's still 12 years since I graduated, but I'm
Money.
still petty about that.
I would agree too. I'm waiting for my money. Yeah, you had to be your own field. You have to be your own field liaison. Like, ugh, that's the stuff that we have to deal with as an MSW. That's why we need title protection. No, it's wild that we don't have title protection. It's wild that we have to beg this hard for our student loans to be forgiven. And it's wild that we don't have services to offer our clients. It's just,
Mhm.
it's a very, very tough field to work in. And I, people say, they're going into social worker, like, to become a social worker, like you said, to service and not to have the pay. But why can't social workers get paid? Why can't we get paid fairly? Why do we have to be shy about talking about money, about requesting raises, about demanding a certain level of pay? We should be able to, just like any other profession. A doctor is saving people's lives, but yet a doctor still can and does talk about money, and it's known that doctors make a lot of money, but we're
Mhm.
still going to the emergency room and asking for their help. And guess who's right next to the doctor? The nurse. But guess who's on the other side? The social
No
worker.
social worker.
Why don't we, doctors have title protection, nurses have title protection? They're paid great. They have great hours. They get to pick their schedule. Why, as a social worker who's in that same room, why can't we talk about money? Why can't we have money? And why don't we have title protection? We're doing the same thing, serving the community, helping people, work through and navigate things. And I think that we should talk about money. When I was in grad school, one of my professors made it clear. He's like, I know people say that you can't make money in the field of social work, but that's a lie, and you can, and there is a lot of money out there to get and a lot of money to make. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You can serve the community, help people, do it selflessly, and still make a living, because like you said, you have children, I have children,
Mhm.
we have bills to pay just like everybody else. And if we're struggling, and if we're not in a good mental and emotional state due to our finances, then we're not going to be physically present to be able to help our clients. We need the stability, not just because we're social workers, but because we worked so hard to get a master's degree, that we should be compensated equally for it. And I think that there's a huge um, disparity between what we make in California and what people are making on the East Coast too. And that's another thing about title protection, is that with them keeping us so separate and us being in different places, that they're able to move differently for us as MSWs.
Yeah, the just to pay alone, 'cause I'm looking for a new job again, and
Yeah.
it's like, and then it's like I look at these salaries, and yes, like I put the cost of living like adjustment into that because Delaware is such a small state, but it's like really, look at these numbers, is like this is ridiculous. And this is like state jobs, and it's like, really? It's like I was making that money like 10 years ago. Like, come on, like really? Like, it's really ridiculous. We need to get paid more. There's the government was like throwing money at states, and I don't know, the states need to give the money like to the people who need it. Like we need to get paid. We need our money. Like states like New York, California is expensive. Like
Mhm.
just from like the last like 2 years, like Delaware is like homes in Delaware or like used to be like under three, like, and now it's like over three, going like mid fours right now for homes. And I know compared to the California, that's like nothing. That's like two California homes, but like that used to be like two Delaware homes for one. Now it's like that's just like one home just within the last like 2 years. So it's the cost of living is definitely going up like everywhere. So if the cost of living is going up, our food prices are going up. Like gas right now is like ridiculous right now. Like the money needs to come from somewhere. Why not be our paycheck? Otherwise, we're gonna be like social workers making like 50, 60K and like food stamp lines, like applying for food stamp for ourselves. Like this is like crazy.
We're right there with our workers and our clients. It's really ridiculous. I mean, if you think about it, that shouldn't be the case. But that's what's happening, and it's not right. It's not right at all because we're not getting paid fairly. We're not making enough money, and we have student loan debt. So we're just forced into this position of struggle. And I think it's at the hands of the government.
Yeah, and the government is trash. Like, it's like
It's really frustrating. I
it
tell
doesn't
you,
matter who's in office. It's like really, like it really. I think that's one thing I definitely hit home during the pandemic. It's like no matter who's in office, like it's just
there's so many
do.
people up in those offices and in those meetings that are so disconnected from reality and don't truly see what's happening, even in their even with their constituents in their communities that they serve. And it's really disappointment because their communities are suffering and they're not, but they're
Is
voting on
that,
it that are going to impact us.
has there been any talk uh, in the news in California about the governor running for president anytime soon?
Newsom.
Yeah,
Honestly, I haven't watched the news in a while, so I don't know. I have no idea. For president, interesting.
yeah,
I have no idea. I would not be surprised. I don't know because that's like the next step, right after governor. But
yeah.
I don't know. I have no idea.
Mhm. Um, so in like the child welfare laws, like how, like you said, you've been doing the home visits and like you still do go to court as well. Like, what does the court system like look like? Where you at?
Yeah, so court hasn't changed a whole lot. We are on video right now, but we are still having regular court hearings as if we were in person. I'm told that we will eventually move back to in person again this year. But court is a part of the process, and so we can't not have it. It's the legal right of the parents and the obligation of the agency to continue to move forward with the court hearings and that process. So much of it hasn't changed except for now we're on video. And so yeah, I mean, yeah, it's still happening. Our work has not really changed a whole lot. There's been a few modifications or changes here and there, but in the field of child welfare, we our work has not been alleviated at all. It's been consistent.
Yeah. How was the pandemic for you as a person?
I have to be honest, it wasn't that awful. The only part that was an inconvenience was trying to be a homeschool parent. And although he had his teacher, half of the day, it was still very rough. And so that part of the pandemic was unfortunate. But overall, I don't have a whole lot to complain about. And I have to see that there were people that had it really bad and really awful. And I have to acknowledge that and know that I didn't have that same experience through the pandemic.
Yeah, I always ask my, or I try to ask my guests, that question because everybody's situation is different, and a lot of people thrive through the pandemic, and those stories need to be told as much as the unfortunate stories. So I could definitely relate, like I said, regarding being a parent and trying to like teach, and it's like on camera. Just the camera alone was like, I can't do this like another year. Just,
Yeah,
just
there. It
I
really could.
was like, just be on camera. What is the problem? Like what?
That was school online was not for me, but the rest of the stuff I cannot complain. It was not a horrible experience for me.
Yeah, I do miss the kids having textbooks though. Like I feel like that was another thing too. Like on the podcast, it was like I have to like do more work as a parent to find out what my kids are doing in terms of schoolwork because everything's on the iPad and they're not using notebooks and all their work's on the iPad, and like just the way it looks on the iPad is like you can't tell what work they're doing, so you gotta rely on your kid to tell you what the heck that they're doing, or the teacher's like emailing you like this is what we're doing. They're like, okay, like, but it's just a lot more work as a parent. Be like, what are you doing in school? Like how like how was school? And it's like, show me what you did, and they really can't show you what they did.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I hear you on that. For me, it was I need to learn what he's learning so I can help him because my son was in third grade and some of the stuff that they would send, it wasn't clear instruction. So I'm like, I don't know how to help him navigate this work because I don't even know what they're asking. And so that was really hard for me. But yeah, I mean, I'm glad we made it through it and he's gotten extra support. So luckily, we're able to do those things. But it was really rough for a lot of kids. And like you said, they just fell another grade behind because they already weren't at the starting line with the rest of the kids. They were already behind. So, yeah.
How, self care has been such a buzzword going around, but what what do what do you do for yourself? Having such a tough job, parenting is the toughest job of them all. But what do you do for you to be like, all right, I'm ready to conquer the world, so to speak?
Yeah, I feel like self-care is something that is talked a lot about. I know that NASW has added it to, code of ethics and our expectations as social workers to be really mindful and to show the intentions behind that. And it's talked about in school, it's talked about in the field, but there aren't a whole lot of ideas, right? Everyone does things differently. So for myself, being with my family and just spending time with them is really an opportunity to release. I tried to meditate and I'm being more consistent with that and just be mindful of my thoughts and what I'm experiencing. Um, and I try to separate the two of what I'm experiencing at work and what I'm experiencing outside of work. And so I always joke, I give my work, the hours that I'm employed, and then outside of that, I have to do other things and not be focused on that because I can't allow it to consume my mind. And I say that as if I don't do that, but I it's something I'm working on, right? It's being mindful of
Hmm.
my mind and what I'm fixated on and what I'm stressed out about. But self-care for me looks like, doing things that I enjoy. Oftentimes they're more, getting a manicure or something, or getting a massage, or getting something that will just help me relax in that moment and not have to focus on doing something or being task based.
Cool, awesome, and knows. whatever works for you. Everybody is different, and you know, s- just we have to do something. But I just don't like jobs or like practice self care is important, and then like they're the ones that stress you out.
They're like, practice self-care. We have a vicarious trauma group, but no one ever goes because we're so entrenched in the vicarious trauma that we're
Mhm.
experiencing with our clients that we don't even have time to go to the vicarious trauma group. So, it's just I don't eat lunch at 12 o'clock. I eat it around 2:30 when I have a moment to do that. So, self-care is definitely something that the profession can use a little support around, especially in the work in it, in itself. But it is hard. It is hard to do that.
Absolutely. Uh, where can people find you?
Yeah, so my name is Maria Wright. It's on my little video right here, so you can get the spelling correct. But you can find me on social media. I'm on Instagram at Maria Marya Wright Wright Consulting. You can also find me on LinkedIn, Maria Wright, MSW. You can find me on YouTube at Marya Wright Consulting. And yeah, hopefully you can connect with me or follow on Instagram and let me know what you thought about this podcast if you have any questions. And I definitely appreciate you having me here. Being on the social work rant was something I really wanted to have happen. So I'm glad we made it happen tonight. And thank you for the support.
No, no, of course. No, no, you have an ally with me, whatever, email, DM away, and always continue to connect.
I appreciate it. Well, thank you. And thank you everyone for listening.